My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the greatest sources of pain in our lives comes from placing our emotional security in the hands of people. We expect them to stay, to understand us, to heal our wounds, and to carry the weight of our happiness. But people are human, they change, they disappoint, they leave. And when your heart is attached to what is unstable, your peace becomes unstable too. Allah never created your heart to depend on creation. He created it to depend on Him. The more you lean on people, the more fragile you become. But the more you lean on Allah, the stronger you grow. When you learn to turn your emotions into dua, your pain into prayer, and your fear into trust, you stop begging for love and start building strength from within. Freedom begins the moment you release emotional dependence on people and attach your heart fully to Allah, the one who never leaves, never forgets, and never fails you. Emotional dependence makes the heart weak. Emotional dependence slowly drains the strength of the heart. When your peace becomes tied to someone else's presence, words, or behavior, your inner world becomes fragile. Islam teaches us that the heart must rest in Allah, not in creation. When the heart leans too heavily on people, it loses the stability Allah intended for it. Depending on people for emotional security places your heart on unstable ground. Human beings change, moods shift, promises break, and circumstances evolve. When your emotions rise and fall with others, your heart becomes restless. True strength begins when your emotions are anchored to Allah alone. Emotional dependence makes you fear loss excessively. You start clinging, overthinking, and worrying about being abandoned. This fear poisons peace. Allah does not want His servant to live in constant anxiety. He wants your heart to feel safe in His presence, not in people's behavior. A heart that depends on people becomes easily wounded. Small words hurt deeply. Silence feels unbearable. Distance feels like rejection. Emotional dependence magnifies pain because your emotional world is no longer in your control. When you depend on people, your self-worth begins to shrink. You measure your value by attention, approval, and affection. Islam teaches that dignity comes from Allah, not from being chosen by someone else. The believer's worth is rooted in faith, not in relationships. Emotional dependence weakens decision-making. You hesitate to do what is right because you fear upsetting others. You tolerate what harms you because you fear being alone. This fear-driven living slowly exhausts the heart. A dependent heart becomes restless in solitude. Silence feels heavy. Being alone feels frightening. But when your heart depends on Allah, solitude becomes peaceful. Strength grows when the heart learns to stand without constant emotional support from people. Emotional dependence traps you in overthinking. You replay conversations, analyze tone, and imagine scenarios. The mind becomes crowded. Peace disappears. A heart attached to Allah finds rest even in uncertainty. Depending on people makes your happiness fragile. A single disagreement can steal your joy. A delayed response can disturb your mood. Allah never created your happiness to be this vulnerable. Emotional dependence also clouds judgment. You ignore red flags. You justify harmful behavior. You sacrifice your boundaries just to keep someone close. This weakens the heart and damages self-respect. A heart that depends on Allah remains strong even when people disappoint. It feels pain, but it does not collapse. Faith provides emotional stability that human attachment cannot offer. When emotional dependence ends, clarity begins. You see people for who they are, not for what you need them to be. This clarity protects the heart from illusion and false hope. Emotional independence does not mean coldness, it means balance. You care without clinging, you love without losing yourself, you support without depending. This balance is strength. Depending on Allah teaches the heart patience. When people fail you, Allah replaces that loss with wisdom. The heart becomes softer but not weaker. A dependent heart lives in fear of endings. A heart anchored in Allah trusts that every ending is guided. This trust transforms pain into growth. Emotional dependence also invites disappointment. No human can fulfill the role of emotional savior. Allah never intended people to carry that responsibility. When the heart breaks free from dependence, peace enters. You stop begging for emotional safety and start building it within yourself through faith. Emotional strength grows when you realize that Allah's presence is enough. You no longer panic when people leave. You no longer collapse when plans change. Breaking emotional dependence does not remove love, it purifies it. Love becomes healthy, steady, and sincere. A heart freed from emotional dependence becomes resilient. It bends but does not break. It feels but does not drown. It loves but does not lose itself. When emotional dependence ends, the heart finally becomes strong. Strong in faith, strong in patience, strong in trust, and that strength is what protects your peace for life. People change, but Allah never does. People come into your life with promises, affection, and certainty, but over time their hearts may shift. What once felt permanent begins to feel distant. Islam teaches us not to build our emotional foundation on what is temporary. People change, but Allah never does, and that is where true stability lives. Human beings are influenced by emotions, circumstances, and desires. Their intentions evolve, their commitments weaken, and their focus moves. When your heart depends on people, it rises and falls with every change they go through, but Allah remains constant in His mercy, care, and presence. When people change, it often hurts deeply. You question what went wrong, what you missed, and why the bond feels different. But Allah never changes. His love for His servant does not fade. His attention does not shift. His support does not weaken. Depending on people makes the heart vulnerable to disappointment. You expect consistency from those who cannot guarantee it. Allah alone is Al-Wadud, the most loving, whose love is not affected by time or circumstances. People may forget you when life becomes busy. Allah never forgets you. Even when the world grows loud around you, He remains aware of every emotion in your heart and every tear you hide. When people change, trust feels broken, but Allah's trustworthiness is perfect. He never fails a promise, never neglects His servant, and never turns away the one who turns to Him. Some people leave when you need them most. Allah draws closer when your need is greatest. His nearness during hardship strengthens the heart in ways people cannot. When people change, your plans are disrupted, but Allah's plan never changes. His wisdom remains flawless, guiding every moment of your life with purpose. People's affection can fade, but Allah's mercy renews itself every day. Each morning brings fresh compassion from the one who never grows tired of giving. People's words may comfort you today and wound you tomorrow. Allah's words remain healing and steady. The Quran continues to soothe the heart long after human voices fall silent. People's presence may bring temporary warmth. Allah's presence brings lasting peace. This peace does not depend on who stays or who leaves. When people change, you learn the limits of human attachment. You realize that hearts were never meant to rest fully on creation. They were created to rest in the Creator. People may fail to understand you. Allah understands every thought before it reaches your lips. His knowledge of your heart is complete and gentle. People may walk away without explanation. Allah never leaves without wisdom. Every separation He allows carries protection, growth, and unseen goodness. When people change, the heart is invited to return to Allah. This return heals wounds that no human apology could ever fix. People's loyalty can weaken, but Allah's loyalty to His servants never breaks. He remains your protector even when all else falls away. People may judge your journey. Allah sees your intentions. His judgment is rooted in mercy and justice, never in misunderstanding. When people change, the heart learns where its true home is, not in unstable relationships, but in the unchanging presence of Allah. People's love can fluctuate, but Allah's love is constant. This constancy gives the heart confidence even in seasons of loneliness. When you realize that people change but Allah never does, your heart stops chasing stability in the wrong places. It settles in the only place that never shifts with Allah, the one whose love, care and guidance remain forever. People's priorities change as life moves. What once mattered deeply to them may slowly fade, not because you failed, but because human hearts are naturally unstable. When your heart rests on people, this shifting ground creates constant emotional strain. When your heart rests on Allah, stability replaces anxiety. People may love you in one season and grow distant in another. Allah's care for you never weakens across seasons. Whether in joy or sorrow, His attention toward you remains full, complete and gentle. People sometimes promise more than they can maintain. Allah never promises what He cannot fulfill. Every word from Allah carries truth, wisdom and certainty, even when the meaning unfolds slowly. People's energy fluctuates. They may support you when it is easy and disappear when it becomes difficult. Allah's support is strongest when your burden is heaviest. He never withdraws His help when you need it most. People may misunderstand your silence, your struggle or your growth. Allah understands every unspoken emotion within you. His understanding reaches deeper than any human perception ever could. People may grow tired of your pain. Allah never grows tired of listening. No matter how many times you return to Him with the same wound, His mercy remains open. People may leave when your life becomes complicated. Allah draws closer when your life becomes complicated. He enters the moments where others step away. People may become cold when your needs increase. Allah becomes warmer when your needs increase. His compassion does not decrease when you are weak. People may offer conditional love. Allah's love is unconditional. It does not depend on your performance, success or emotional strength. People may give you comfort for a while. Allah gives you peace that stays. His peace is not borrowed from circumstances. It flows from divine nearness. People's loyalty can bend under pressure. Allah's protection never bends. He remains your shield when every other defense collapses. People may disappoint you when expectations are high. Allah exceeds your expectations when your heart is sincere. What He gives often arrives differently than you imagine, but always better for your soul. People may remember you when they need you and forget you when they do not. Allah remembers you at all times. You are never absent from His care. People may judge your mistakes. Allah forgives them. His forgiveness repairs the heart, while human judgment often wounds it. People may abandon you at your lowest. Allah never abandons His servant. He lifts you precisely when you think you cannot rise again. People may turn their backs without explanation. Allah never turns away without purpose. Every departure He allows is designed to move you towards something better. People's presence may depend on convenience. Allah's presence is constant. He is with you in every breath you take. People may struggle to love you when you are broken. Allah loves you especially when you are broken. He is closest to the wounded heart. People may give you attention for what you offer them. Allah cares for you because you belong to Him. Your value does not decrease when you are empty. People's emotions change with time. Allah's mercy renews every moment. Each second you exist is wrapped in His compassion. When you deeply understand that people change but Allah never does, your heart stops trembling at human inconsistency. It finds rest in divine permanence. Your soul becomes calmer because it is no longer chasing security from those who cannot provide it. Instead, it receives security from the one who never withdraws it. This realization reshapes how you love. You love people sincerely but no longer cling to them. You care without collapsing. You trust without losing yourself. You stop fearing loss as much because you know that whatever leaves you was never your true foundation. Allah remains your foundation. And when Allah becomes your foundation, your heart finally stands steady, not because life stopped changing, but because the one you depend on never does. Turn your emotions into dua. not attachment. Emotions are powerful, but when they are left without guidance, they can control the heart. Islam teaches us not to suppress our emotions, but to direct them. When you turn your emotions into dua instead of attachment, you protect your heart from becoming dependent on what cannot truly heal it. Attachment makes you look for relief in people. Dua makes you look for relief in Allah. People can listen, but only Allah can change what is hurting inside you. This shift transforms emotional pain into spiritual strength. When you feel overwhelmed, the heart naturally seeks comfort. If that comfort is found in people, disappointment follows. If it is found in Allah, peace begins. Dua becomes the safest place for every emotion. Turning emotions into dua teaches the heart patience. Instead of reacting impulsively, you pause, breathe, and speak to Allah. That pause prevents many regrets and protects your dignity. Dua gives your emotions purpose. Pain stops feeling meaningless when it becomes a conversation with Allah. Every tear, fear, and worry finds its place in that conversation. Attachment grows when emotions are not released properly. When you bottle them inside or pour them into the wrong place, they intensify. Dua gently empties the heart of what it cannot carry alone. Through dua, emotions soften instead of hardening. Anger becomes clarity, sadness becomes humility, fear becomes trust. The heart learns how to transform pain without being destroyed by it. When you depend on people emotionally, your happiness rises and falls with their actions. When you depend on Allah through dua, your heart remains steady even when people change. Dua reminds you that Allah is near. This nearness calms emotions. You no longer feel abandoned in your feelings because Allah hears every word you cannot say out loud. Turning emotions into dua prevents emotional exhaustion. You stop chasing explanations, validation, and reassurance from others. You receive reassurance directly from the one who controls everything. Dua protects you from emotional attachment that weakens your faith. When emotions are constantly attached to people, the heart forgets where true reliance belongs. Dua realigns the heart with Allah. When you cry in dua, the heart releases tension. That release makes space for peace. Emotional pressure slowly dissolves through remembrance. Turning emotions into dua also builds emotional maturity. You learn how to feel deeply without losing control. You become stronger without becoming cold. Attachment often grows from fear of being alone. Dua teaches you that you are never alone. Allah's presence replaces that fear with calm. Dua gives you clarity. When emotions feel confusing, speaking to Allah untangles the heart. Answers do not always arrive immediately, but direction does. When you turn emotions into dua, you stop expecting people to heal what only Allah can heal. This realization removes heavy expectations from relationships. Dua strengthens emotional independence. You care for people without clinging to them. You love without losing yourself. Through dua, your heart becomes resilient. Instead of breaking under emotional strain, it learns how to bend and recover. Attachment makes emotions unstable. Dua stabilizes them. Stability brings peace, and peace brings strength. Turning emotions into dua deepens your relationship with Allah. Every struggle becomes a step closer to Him. When your emotions rise, return them to Allah. When your heart feels heavy, place it in His care. This practice protects your soul from attachment and fills it with light. The heart that turns its emotions into dua no longer collapses under pain. It stands firm, guided by faith, protected by Allah, and free from the chains of unhealthy attachment. When emotions are directed toward Allah, the heart learns discipline. Instead of pouring your energy into overthinking, you pour it into prayer. This redirection slowly rewires the heart from dependence to trust. Emotions often rise suddenly. Dua gives them a safe landing. Without dua, emotions crash into people and situations, creating confusion and regret. With dua, emotions are grounded. When you place your emotions before Allah, you stop demanding emotional security from the world. You receive a deeper security, the certainty that Allah is managing your heart. Dua teaches the heart that relief does not come from explanation but from submission. Even when nothing changes outwardly, something always changes inwardly. Attachment grows when emotions are unmanaged. Dua gives them structure. Structure brings calm, and calm strengthens faith. When you return your emotions to Allah, you stop chasing emotional closure from people. Closure becomes an internal process, not a negotiation with others. Dua protects you from emotional dependency. You stop clinging to words, messages, and gestures for stability. Instead, you cling to Allah's promise. Turning emotions into dua reduces emotional chaos. The heart becomes quieter, thoughts become clearer, faith becomes stronger. When emotions are heavy, dua lightens the load. Allah carries what you can no longer hold. Dua creates emotional boundaries. You still feel deeply, but you no longer bleed emotionally into unhealthy spaces. Attachment makes the heart anxious. Dua makes the heart steady. Steadiness is the foundation of emotional strength. When emotions are placed in Allah's care, the heart stops racing for reassurance. You trust that Allah's reassurance is already enough. Dua keeps the heart from becoming bitter. Instead of resenting what hurt you, you surrender it to Allah and move forward with grace. Turning emotions into dua also heals emotional wounds. Allah repairs what people never noticed they damaged. Dua removes emotional loneliness. Even when you are physically alone, your heart feels accompanied. When you make dua from your pain, that pain becomes a bridge to Allah, not a barrier. Dua refines emotional awareness. You understand your feelings without being controlled by them. Attachment fades when faith grows. Dua is how faith grows. The heart that constantly returns its emotions to Allah becomes emotionally intelligent. It responds wisely instead of reacting impulsively. Dua builds inner security. You no longer panic at emotional shifts because Allah remains constant. As you continue turning emotions into dua, your heart becomes lighter. You still feel, but you no longer drown. Your emotions begin to serve your growth instead of sabotaging it. And one day, you realize that what once made you weak has made you wise, because you learned where your heart truly belongs with Allah alone. Self-respect grows when dependence ends. Self-respect begins the moment you stop placing your worth in the hands of others. When emotional dependence ends, the heart stands upright again. You no longer bend yourself into shapes that please people while losing yourself. You begin to honor the soul Allah entrusted to you. Dependence slowly teaches the heart to beg for validation. Self-respect teaches the heart to walk with dignity. When you stop needing others to define your value, you reclaim the authority over your own life. Ending dependence is not coldness, it is clarity. You still care deeply, but you no longer sacrifice your peace to be accepted. That balance is the foundation of true self-respect. When dependence ends, boundaries appear naturally. You stop overgiving. You stop explaining yourself to those who do not listen. You stop tolerating what wounds you. This is not arrogance, it is self-preservation. Self-respect grows when you no longer fear being alone. You choose solitude over disrespect, peace over chaos, and dignity over approval. These choices strengthen the heart. A dependent heart says, I need you to be okay. A self-respecting heart says, I am okay because Allah is with me. That shift transforms how you walk through life. When dependence ends, emotional reactions soften. You no longer panic at silence. You no longer collapse at distance. You remain calm because your foundation is stable. Self-respect teaches you to walk away from what devalues you without bitterness. You do not argue your worth, you protect it. Dependence clouds judgment. Self-respect clears it. You begin to see relationships for what they are, not for what you wish them to be. When you stop depending on people, your confidence grows quietly. It is no longer built on compliments, attention, or validation. It is built on faith. Self-respect strengthens decision-making. You choose what honors your heart instead of what soothes your fear. Ending dependence heals emotional wounds. You stop reopening the same pain by returning to what hurt you. Self-respect attracts healthier relationships. When you value yourself, you naturally stop accepting less than you deserve. Dependence makes you chase. Self-respect makes you choose. When you respect yourself, your time becomes sacred. You no longer waste it on emotional confusion. Self-respect protects your mental peace. You stop overthinking people's intentions because you trust your own worth. Dependence makes your happiness fragile. Self-respect makes it stable. When self-respect grows, your heart becomes lighter. You no longer carry the burden of needing approval. You begin to speak more gently, walk more confidently, and stand more firmly in who you are. Ending dependence teaches you that Allah is enough. That belief becomes your shield. And when self-respect finally takes root, you realize that losing dependence did not make you lonely, it made you free. When self-respect takes deeper root, your inner dialogue begins to change. You no longer speak to yourself with doubt and fear, but with calm reassurance. This shift alone strengthens the heart and stabilizes the mind. You start choosing environments that protect your peace. Loudness, drama, and emotional chaos no longer attract you. You become selective, not because you are distant, but because your heart has learned its value. Ending dependence helps you recognize emotional manipulation quickly. What once confused you now feels clear. You no longer tolerate guilt traps, emotional pressure, or silent control. Self-respect strengthens your emotional posture. You sit with your feelings without rushing to escape them through people. This stillness allows healing to unfold properly. You become less reactive to disrespect. Instead of fighting to be understood, you quietly remove yourself from spaces that dishonor your soul. That quiet withdrawal is powerful. Dependence once made you cling to familiarity even when it hurt. Self-respect gives you courage to walk toward uncertainty if it means protecting your dignity. You begin to feel proud of yourself, not with ego, but with gratitude. You recognize how far you've come emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Ending dependence refines your patience. You stop rushing relationships, outcomes, and healing. You trust Allah's timing more than your emotions. Your self-worth becomes stable. It no longer rises with praise or falls with criticism. This inner steadiness creates confidence that cannot be shaken easily. You start trusting your instincts. The heart becomes wiser when it is no longer clouded by emotional desperation. Self-respect also strengthens your faith. You begin making choices that align with your values, not with fear of losing people. You no longer chase closure, you create it. By choosing peace, you allow the past to settle naturally. Ending dependence helps you let go of guilt. You stop carrying responsibility for other people's emotions and choices. You begin honoring your boundaries even when it feels uncomfortable. That discomfort passes, but the respect remains. Your emotional endurance increases. You handle life's ups and downs with more balance and composure. Self-respect makes you careful with your words. You speak gently, clearly, and with intention. You begin to see your life as something sacred. Your time, energy, and heart become trusts you protect. Dependence once made you chase love. Self-respect makes you become love. You stop asking, "Why am I not enough?" and start living as if you already are. You grow comfortable with uncertainty. Trust replaces fear. When self-respect fully settles in the heart, you no longer feel small in this world. You walk steadily, gently, and confidently, knowing that your worth was written by Allah long before anyone else ever had a chance to define it. When Allah is enough, no one can break you. When Allah becomes enough for your heart, your foundation becomes unshakable. You no longer depend on people to feel whole, safe, or valued. Your strength comes from a source that never weakens. This is when the heart becomes steady, calm, and resilient. A heart that rests in Allah does not panic when people leave. It may feel pain, but it does not collapse. Loss becomes manageable when your core is anchored in faith. When Allah is enough, your self-worth is no longer borrowed. It is rooted in divine care. No opinion, rejection, or disappointment can strip that away. People's behavior stops controlling your emotions. You respond instead of reacting. Calm replaces chaos. This emotional balance is strength. When Allah is enough, silence no longer frightens you. Solitude becomes peaceful. You feel accompanied even when alone. You stop chasing validation. You stop begging for attention. You stop proving your value. You know where your worth comes from. A heart connected to Allah becomes resilient. Storms pass, but the heart remains standing. When Allah is enough, fear weakens, trust grows, the unknown becomes less threatening. You stop overthinking people's intentions. You focus on Allah's guidance instead. Clarity replaces confusion. When Allah is enough, you become emotionally independent. You care deeply without clinging. Disappointments no longer destroy you. They refine you. You grow through pain, not from it. You learn to let go gracefully. You release what hurts without hatred. This is emotional maturity. When Allah is enough, you become patient with life. You stop rushing healing. You trust timing. Your heart stops trembling at change. Change becomes part of the journey, not the end of it. When Allah is enough, comparison loses its power. You stop measuring your life against others. You become harder to manipulate. Emotional games lose their effect. When Allah is enough, you walk with dignity. You choose peace over drama. You become consistent in faith, not dependent on moods. Your heart becomes lighter, burdens feel smaller. When Allah is enough, your soul rests. No matter what happens in this world, no matter who stays or leaves, no matter how life unfolds, a heart that has Allah will never be broken. When Allah is enough, your heart no longer begs the world for safety. You walk through life knowing that whatever happens, you are held by the one who controls all things. This knowledge steadies your steps even on uncertain ground. You stop fearing rejection the way you once did. When people choose differently, your heart remains calm because your true belonging is with Allah. When Allah is enough, you do not collapse when plans fall apart. You trust that what leaves your life makes space for what Allah is preparing. Your emotional strength deepens. You still feel pain, but it no longer defines you. Faith becomes your emotional armor. When Allah is enough, your peace becomes internal. It is not dependent on comfort, success, or approval. It flows from belief. You stop demanding perfection from people. You accept human limitations without allowing them to wound your soul. When Allah is enough, your heart becomes forgiving. You release resentment because you trust Allah to handle justice. You no longer fear loneliness. You feel accompanied even in silence. When Allah is enough, your mind becomes clearer. Overthinking fades. Focus sharpens. You grow less reactive. Instead of exploding emotionally, you respond with calm wisdom. When Allah is enough, your identity strengthens. You know who you are, regardless of what others think. You stop attaching your happiness to outcomes. You remain steady whether things go as planned or not. When Allah is enough, hope stays alive even in darkness. You develop patience with yourself. You stop criticizing your weakness and start nurturing your growth. When Allah is enough, your life gains direction. You stop wandering emotionally. You no longer envy others' journeys. You trust your own path. When Allah is enough, your heart learns how to rest without guilt. You begin making decisions that honor your soul. When Allah is enough, fear loses its grip. Your heart becomes unbreakable because it is no longer carrying life alone. It is carried by Allah. When Allah is enough, your heart no longer searches for approval in every face you meet. You walk with quiet confidence, knowing that your value was written by your Creator long before anyone had an opinion about you. This certainty settles the soul. You stop explaining yourself to those who refuse to understand you. You no longer fight to be seen or heard. When Allah is enough, being known by Him becomes more than enough. When Allah is enough, emotional wounds heal faster. The heart still feels pain, but it recovers without bitterness. Faith becomes the medicine that restores what life bruises. You stop attaching your future to people's promises. You place your trust in Allah's plan, which never fails. This shift removes fear from the unknown. When Allah is enough, your patience deepens. You wait without anger, endure without despair, and move forward without resentment. This is inner strength at its highest form. You no longer beg for love. You become a source of calm and stability. Love flows naturally when the heart is no longer desperate. When Allah is enough, your joy becomes independent. It does not rise and fall with circumstances. It rests in faith, and faith is steady. You stop clinging to what hurts you. You release what drains you. When Allah is enough, you choose peace even when it costs you familiarity. Your heart becomes protected from emotional storms. When conflict appears, you remain grounded. When chaos surrounds you, you stay calm inside. When Allah is enough, your soul becomes anchored. No wave of loss, disappointment, or change can pull you under. You stop living in fear of abandonment. You know that even if the world turns away, Allah remains closer than your own breath. When Allah is enough, you no longer feel empty in quiet moments. Silence becomes a place of healing rather than loneliness. Your thoughts grow gentler, harsh self-criticism fades, you become patient with your own growth. When Allah is enough, your trust in life increases. You stop resisting what happens and start flowing with divine wisdom. You no longer chase emotional highs. You seek spiritual depth. Depth creates peace, and peace protects the heart. When Allah is enough, your confidence becomes natural. You are no longer trying to prove anything. You simply are. Your heart stops racing for control. You surrender outcomes to Allah and walk forward with courage. When Allah is enough, your resilience multiplies. Every hardship strengthens you instead of breaking you. You stop carrying unnecessary burdens. You give them to Allah, who carries them with mercy. When Allah is enough, your heart becomes a safe place for yourself and for others. You become a person of calm presence. People feel peace around you because peace lives within you. When Allah is enough, your spirit becomes unshakable. No storm lasts forever, but your faith does. You stop fearing the future. You know that whatever comes will come with Allah's care. When Allah is enough, your heart learns how to breathe through pain. You stop asking life for guarantees. You accept uncertainty with trust. When Allah is enough, your soul finally rests. No disappointment can destroy you. No loss can empty you. No change can undo you, because your heart belongs to Allah, and a heart held by Allah can never be broken. When Allah is enough, you no longer feel pressured to fit into spaces that do not honor your soul. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. Your presence becomes authentic, steady, and calm, because your heart no longer needs permission to exist. You begin trusting your inner compass. Decisions are no longer driven by fear of rejection or loss, but by clarity and faith. This alignment strengthens the heart deeply. When Allah is enough, you grow comfortable with your own company. Solitude becomes nourishing rather than painful. In those quiet moments, your heart finds renewal. You stop collecting emotional debts from people. You no longer wait for apologies, explanations, or closure. You release everything to Allah, and this release sets your heart free. When Allah is enough, your expectations from the world soften. You stop demanding perfection from life and start appreciating its lessons. Your heart becomes lighter because it is no longer burdened by the need to control everything. Trust replaces tension. Peace replaces anxiety. When Allah is enough, your soul becomes patient with change. Transitions no longer frighten you. You see them as part of divine design. You begin to move through life without rushing. You allow things to unfold with grace. The slow confidence strengthens your spirit. When Allah is enough, you stop blaming yourself for every hardship. You understand that tests are not punishments but growth. You learn how to be kind without being weak. You protect your boundaries while keeping your heart open. When Allah is enough, your heart grows wiser. You recognize what deserves your energy and what does not. You stop competing with others. Your journey becomes